You ever wonder what it takes to win a super major like the US Open Tacoma? Well, today on Ops, episode 47, we're going to get into the mind of Steve Trimble, and he did exactly that. He won the entire US Open in Tacoma to take home the championship. Stay tuned and locked in while we get into the mind of a champion. So welcome, Steve Trimble, and congratulations on your amazing feat over the weekend at the GW US Open Tacoma Open.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So just for the people, just to let them know, can you give us like a little synopsis of who you are, what you do in the 40K world, and what's kind of your day one army or what you're about?
Yeah. Like I said, I'm Steve Trimble. I've been playing competitive Warhammer since maybe 2018 or 2019 or so. I'm usually or notoriously a super aggressive melee type player, which isn't really very viable in this meta. My most famous armies would be Death Guard, Custodes, and I guess CSM. I won the last Tacoma with Custodes, for instance.
23, right?
Yeah, 23. And last year I went undefeated with Vanguard. Oh, Nids. I played a lot of Nids. That's my second most played army. With Vanguard Nids is what I played last year.
Wow. So you're a true Death Guard enthusiast then. You're not a bandwagoner. You've been playing them for a while.
Oh yes, I started playing them 9th edition when they got reworked to beat a lot of free stuff. I was playing 60 to 70 Plague Marines with either Mortarion and Abaddon, and that was a lot of fun. Yeah, I'm playing most of this edition just of Death Guard with other armies.
So once again, congratulations on going 8-0 with your Death Guard at the US Open. That is no small feat, like we were saying, right? And you walked into Tacoma. Did you feel like you had the winning list?
Yes. It's for multiple. So the background is I currently do not really like the Death Guard Codex very much.
Okay.
The issue I have with the Codex is the 90-point vehicles, like the generic blow drones, mephitic blight haulers, and then obviously the good blow drones are 100. Stranglehold the Codex so much that if you're not playing like 9 to 15 Rhino chassis, your list is like wrong, and I really hate that. It's not cool. So I didn't really play them too much as the Codex came out, because that list were people were like 10 Plague Marines, 12 Rhinos. Here's your list. You're gonna win on stats, and not even like good stats, they're just cheap stats. Exactly. Then I started thinking of Mortarion's hammer, and I'm like, this is by far the best attachment ability because you point and click 2 units and automatically flick them. Versus sticky ejectives, and Champion's Contagion has the worst attachment ability in the book, which is you just flip your Contagion every turn, which you never do. And it lets you use the Plague Burst Crawlers and Death Shroud to the highest usability, and which in my opinion I think that Plague Burst Crawler is the best unit in the whole game. This unit is overpowered as hell, but unlike say like Knights or Chaos Knights, which kind of have solved attachments,
correct,
the average person doesn't even think of hammer. It is like being played at like WTC, for instance, is the most played Death Guard attachment, but in like the generic sense of like normal 40k and like normal GTs and the average person, most people don't even think of hammer. So yeah, I'm like, it has the ability, since with ridiculous cheesy anti-LS of just point and click, make people afflicted, and then you shoot them in the face or you deep strike on them, you have the ability to be any army in the game, and then maybe its hardest matchup is hypothetically knights. But I play, but the point in click damage at the same time with entropy cannons and rerolls was incredibly very high. So I'm like, this is probably the best list you can play that isn't just some kind of Imperial Knights list potentially.
Super efficient. It looked like, obviously, if everyone was watching you on stream, they saw how you were playing out throughout your games, especially in your final game. And we'll get more into that later on. But you made a maneuver where there was a deep strike of Zoanthropes, a Ravener, and I want to say a Lictor of some sort, or maybe a Hive Tyrant, and you adjusted very well, right? And I think that your faction has the ability, between your piloting and the faction itself and the abilities that it has, you have the ability to adjust like that on the fly, which is really nice and unique in seeing you and how you adjusted in that. So with that being said, you have a reputation of playing with a lot of confidence, right? Some would even say swagger. How much does mental edge play in a role in your wins?
Yeah, that's actually, I don't know, a thing I like to do. I hate having, like, not like emotion, but I guess negative emotion in a game.
Yeah.
Like people like to complain in 40K a lot.
I never have a good time. Yeah,
I never verbally complain, because also like it tips off your opponent, for instance.
Yes.
And if you never look, like you say, like surprised or anything,
yeah,
it doesn't give free information to your opponent. And a lot of the times, like for instance, the play you talked about, I exactly planned for that. I had specifically not screened out that area because I was fine with him going there. And
smart.
Because I was like, at worst, I lose 2 Plague Burst Crawlers, and then that's the rest of his Deep Strikers, and then I can just kill them. That's why I specifically Deep Strike Death Shroud to not heroic, because, well, setting up to look like I could heroic. Because I set it up where I could heroic almost anywhere, but I was never going to, because he could have killed them with Trigons, or killed most of them. So I was like, alright, he's going to kill these guys, and then I'm going to kill the rest of his army.
Yep. Which, an amazing play, big brain play. We'll get more into it in a second when I ask you about that in particular for that round. So your list clearly handled a variety of opponents. You beat up on Imperial Knights, Tyranids, others. What's the core concept of your list that gave you such consistency across 8 games? Now, for the public, right, I'm going to put his list out in the description section, so you'll be able to see that. I'm not going to show it currently with Steve, but we're going to talk about it slightly. So go ahead, Steve.
Yeah.
Sorry.
My list is very simple. Let's go over it real quick. It has a Lord of Virulence, and he has an enhancement to give him Lone Op and some rerolls. 2 Lords of Contagion to go 2 of my Death Shroud squads. 3 3-man Death Shrouds. 3 10-man Poxwalkers. 3 Launcher Drones, like the Blight Launcher Drones. 2 normal Mephitic Blight Haulers, and 3 Plague Burst Crawlers with Entropy. So it's
simple.
A good amount of vehicles, but slightly less than the average hammer list. Most hammer lists have maybe some Hell Brutes or 3 Mephitics. The main difference I have with like maybe a generic hammer list is the 3rd Poxwalker and the 3rd Death Shroud. Mm-hmm. Besides for Plague, I think the Plague Burst Caller is the best unit in the game.
Yep.
But in a weird oxymoron, I think the Death Shroud is the best unit in Death Guard. So I think it's pretty, unless you have a very specific reason. Like I know Team USA brought a Knight to their list, so they can't afford 3 Death Shroud. So, but I think unless you have a very specific reason, if you're not taking 3 Death Shroud, especially in like other attachments,
correct,
it's like crazy. This unit's insane. So that's what I would do. It's not like a stat check. My models aren't hard to kill or anything, and there's not like a lot of them. But it's like I have 3 Plague Burst Scholars in the back. They have anti-LS, potentially rerolls if I can like poke something out, and they have AP 2 to 3, blah blah blah. So that makes your opponent innately on the back foot because they can't do jerk off in their DZ.
And Eldar get very scared too for that.
That speaking of Eldar, I've been playing Ynnari for 6 months. Warhost is now pretty good again, and Warhost that's another reason I'm disattached. Warhost is really good against the other 2 Death Guard attachments, and really good against Knights, but it folds to Plague Burst Crawlers. So I'm like, with good conscience, I'm like, I can't say I won't play against the Plague Scholar Tacoma, so I'm just gonna play the Death Guard. So yeah, it has the Plague Scholars, which innately gives you the very good tempo, because unlike another like a guard anti-LOS piece, which only shoots anti-LOS, is the direct LOS shooting of a Plague Scholar is also really good. So it's a multifaceted anti-LOS type of model. And while you have things like zombies and buffet bihars and bloat drones, who you piecemeal out like one at a time. You're like, all right, this is gonna go objective. You're gonna have to kill it, and I gotta go delete that unit that goes on it. Goes on here, and then on turn 2 to 3, you get to just like alpha strike more or less your opponent to death with 3 Death Shroud. Because 3 Death Shroud is like almost 1,000 points. It's like half my army, but it doesn't feel like half my army to most people because it's kind of already like oppressive with the Plague Scholars and blow drones alone.
Yep.
And on off talk, onto the Poxwalkers themselves are so good, like specifically something like Knights. And besides like Canis Rex, a Knight cannot one-shot in melee a Poxwalker squad. So I love charging Knights and Poxwalkers. They have like 10 attacks. They can't kill 10 models, especially if you're going like a nice one hit. And they're like, damn, I'm stuck with 2 zombies on my own turn. This sucks. I'm like, yeah, that does.
So, which is a great idea. And so for everyone listening out there, make sure to read into those strategies and tactics. So when you, speaking of which, right? So when you sit down across from your opponent, what's your first step? What's the key intel you're looking for in their army and their demeanor? Yeah,
the most important things is how good their direct line of sight shooting is and how good their like teleporting type actions are. Because obviously Plague Scholars are always in the back, but if they don't have to like be in the back behind a wall, it's much better if I can use them to shoot things that isn't just mortars, or have mortars that have hit on 3s rolling everything. So that's important. Same thing with like direct line of sight, like tanks like maybe Rogel Dorn or Death Guard Mir. You have to know exactly how far all their stuff is moving, so you have to preemptively place your stuff in contention. So that's where a lot of times where the Poxwalker infiltrates come into play, block all that crap out. Same thing with melee. The Poxwalkers very handily solve that by just blocking them in their DZ for 2 turns.
If someone wants to pilot Death Guard competitively, what's the one trap they need to avoid?
Don't play the Demon Prince. He's bad.
Is he bad? Is that the non-winged one, right? The no
yeah,
wing?
He's 225 points. He has no wounds and does no damage. Same thing Mortarion. Mortarion is hypothetically good, but he makes you auto-lose to Knights. Because the issue with Knights is they have a lot of anti-flying models. They just move them on 3s and 2s with Atroposes. And the second he dies, you lose on that spot because you give him a 5 Feel No Pain.
Yeah, that's why a lot of factions like Blood Angels with 18 different units, a bunch of JPIs doing so well in this meta with Knights, right? Because they just can't kill all of those units.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are teching in to killing Knights, right? So people are coming with all the big guns. So, like you said, right, harping back to what you said about your Poxwalkers, they're not going to be able to kill 10 models. Most units are not, right? So,
and Poxwalkers are also T4 with a Feel No Pain.
Yep.
They're annoyingly durable.
All right, so let's get into the key games and the gauntlet that you went through. So, Ben Jurek is no slouch, right? Everyone knows this. Walk us through that match. What was your read on his list, and how did you dismantle it?
Yeah, this was like, no offense to Ben, but that was an absolute stomp, and he can attest to that. Because the issue with Knights is they're a skew. Issue with a vehicle army, they're a skew. So we're both playing two skew armies. Whoever rolls better is going to win. Good for him. We're playing on take and hold, so it's better for Knights. Because my list, this is the most unlike me army I've ever played. Because this is an army where I literally jerked off in my DZ every single game. You can see it on the finals. I would not leave my DZ ever, which is not something I've ever done. But so it's very good for him, very bad for me when there's a 15 primary instead of like 10s, like a Scorcher. Like, I love the finals because it was Scorcher. You only get 10. So he moves an Atropos on both sides, like one on the bottom, and it was Crucible. So there's objective at the bottom right, the top left.
Right.
He moves an Atropos at the top, bottom right, and the top left. That's what you do. He's playing triple Atropos, Canis, for Helverons. That's his list.
The usual. Yep.
Yeah, the normal. I went first. Yes, I went first, and I just bombarded some Helverons. Did a couple damage. I didn't kill anything on turn 1. I didn't really move either. I moved a couple like models to like the side where they couldn't really be seen by him on turn 1, but I didn't really do much. And the bottom right actor post failed Battle Shock, so I couldn't rotate on my turn. And I moved. Bad for him. Yeah, I moved both my Mephitic and a a Bloat Drone to shoot it, and then I poked out every single Plague Scholar to get direct LOS, and I targeted it for rerolls, and it died to 2 Mephitic and 1 Bloat Drone. So like he failed exactly 28 feel no pains. So I think it took like something like 34 damage or something, 36 damage. And the top right Atropos got halved, and I was in combat with it.
Wow.
Then he shoots, actually kills, I think 2 Plague Scholars. Yeah, he kills 2 Plague Scholars on his turn 2. And because one gets sniped by 3 Helverins from across the board. I just didn't roll any 3-ups, it just died. But then going into his turn, I Deep Strike charged Canis with my Death Shroud. I shot the other Atropos to death. So by his turn 2 and my turn 3, I had killed 3 of his 4 knights. And before his turn 3, he had 1 knight and then 2 Helverins left. And the game was pretty much essentially over at that point. He just moves his Atropos on his turn 3, I kill it on turn 4, and then the last 2 rounds, just 2 Helverins in the background.
Little side question. Don't want to get too contentious, but what is your feeling on Knights right now? Obviously, you're playing Death Guard, right? A very strong army. But what is your sentiments on Knights right now? Do you feel like they have 1 Knight too many, or what do you think of them in the meta currently?
That's a Chaos Knights issue. Is they're too cheap? They don't have too much like OP rules or anything. Maybe the +3 move is kind of annoying, but whatever. But the issue is that Imperial Knights was already one of the best armies in the game. Obviously their list was completely different, and then they got strictly better because why Imperial Knights is the best army, even though they have less data sheets than Chaos Knights, is they have rules, like actually good rules.
Yes, they do.
So they are both too cheap and have too much rules. Like things like Feel No Pains, they have the best fight on death in the game. Randomly get extra CP. The only army that cares about your warlord, so you might accidentally misclick your warlord and lose on the spot, which is very silly. It's annoying. It's the only army that matters. So those are so Knights is both, which is kind of an issue. And when they had to fix Knights in the middle edition with the move through walls and shoot through walls, it made them also the most maneuverable tank army in the game, which also makes literally 0 sense. So I personally don't think they should have both of those. Like, I guess you keep move through walls so they can move easier, but I don't think they should have the cheesy LOS rule. It makes it very hard to play against. But yes, it is mostly points.
Yep. I think so too. I think so too. I personally play World Eaters, so I personally hate Lords of Dread, is specifically if they tech into that enhancement where it's -1 damage and then they can do fight first. That's horrible for my World Eaters. Yeah. But anything else, I mean, it's a 50-50. Basically, if you're going second, you're winning that game. So
yeah, because unlike Imperial Knights, Chaos Knights doesn't really run the Forge World Knights. They don't have invols. They don't have Feel No Pains. They're a lot easier to deal with. Like, I love playing against Chaos Knights. I'm like, my whole army's AP 3 and 4. I'm just going to chop you in half.
Which is big for you. So talking back into the Gauntlet, right? So the final round was against Jeff Jew. Shout out to Ben Jurek. Shout out to Jeff Jew as well. Wonderful, wonderful individuals. I've heard, I've never personally met them, but I've heard they're great people. So that's a high pressure table with everyone watching, right? So what's going through your head when you sat down? And was there a turning point when you knew you had it locked in?
Yeah, it was probably my turn 2 Deep Strike, to be honest. When I got the ability, when I got things in Contagion to be able to get his Trigon in combat and pile into a squad of Raveners. Because by the end of my turn, besides his Trigon, which isn't really going to be using tunnels too much because it's just trying to Deep Strike, he had 3 models that had tunnel markers, which were going to die on my turn 3. So I'm like, by turn 2, I know he's not going to have any tunnels left. And since he's already such on the back foot on my turn 2, where like his Biovore can't leave the direct corner, like the actual corner. It got down to 1 on turn 1. If I just rolled a 5, it would have died, for instance. I did 2 direct LOS damage, and a 5 does 1 mortal to kill it. So he could never move his Biovore. His Swarm Mode has to AFK on his DZ, which I was surprised he did that, but it made sense because the only model in his army that can live through potentially 3 Plague Burst Callers. But I was very happy I didn't have to deal with a Swarm Lord coming to melee me, because that thing can potentially kill most of a Death Shadow squad or kill a whole drone, for instance.
Yep.
But yeah, like I said, when I got his Tyrannofix in combat with some Raveners, I know he has to, because I specifically did not screen my bottom, as you were talking, my bottom left corner. Yep. So I'm like, he's probably going to come here, which is fine. I'm fine with sacrifice my Plague Callers, and he's going to have to try and do as much damage as possible. But that means my Rapid Ingress Death Shroud are going to come sweep up the units and kill them. And then that's essentially the only thing left in his army, because everything else was already on the board. It was just some Hive Guard and some little shitter gribbly units which do nothing to Death Guard. They die in 1/10 of a second.
I noticed it how you positioned, right? Because on the stream you couldn't see well the Zoanthropes and the Raveners behind that ruin piece, right? Yeah. So I couldn't tell. I mean, they had that overview, but as soon as I saw on the overview where you had your Plague Burst Crawler, I want to say a Lord of Contagion or some type of character that was all on the side. The
Lord of Virulence, he's the lone off guy.
Yep. As soon as I saw that, I was like, this was a setup. Steve set him up so he could deep strike there. Yeah. That way he could deal with that. Not only are you separating his army, right? Because obviously at any point in time, any army, if you start segregating your army, if I'm fighting a quarter of your army or a third of your army, I'm in the advantageous position here, right? Yeah. Especially if I have more points, more units on that side of the table. So I saw that. That was absolutely brilliant, man. And I just kind of wanted to point that out for people, so they see things like that. They see the brilliance in players like yourself and making options that will kill a unit or two in your army, right? So you got to sacrifice something in order to look at the bigger picture of the big win. So
because people always say you always have to screen, and I could have just screened by putting my Plague Burst car like 2 inches backwards, but I like you said, I wanted him there and not like on the sides or in his DZ, so I can come sweep it up.
Or to get added into that center, because he was starting to crowd that center.
Yeah, the center was something I couldn't really deal with too easily. That was the hardest place for if he could go there. It's not where I wanted him.
Yeah, if he had the Hive Tyrant and he put those Zoanthropes right there in the center, like I think that would have been really bad, really bad.
It was much harder to deal with.
Yeah, absolutely. So, speaking of preparing and stuff like that, how did you prepare for Tacoma? Did you have like a practice regimen, sparring partners, or something like that?
Yeah, actually, I didn't prepare with Death Guard too much. I said this was kind of a last-minute change because like I said, didn't like the current codex too much. I was actually playing things like Blood Angels and Renegade Raiders, 3 Disco Lords and Bastor and Warhost mostly, and then I'm like, these can't deal with specific night deployments. It's like you can't, like, we had one pseudo Dawn of War, what's it called, Sweeping Engagement or something, the other Dawn of War, we had one of those, and I even played Knights on it. I'm like, if you play like a normal Knights list with Blood Angels on that deployment zone, you lose on the spot. Like, I played against World Eaters with 2 Forge Fiends only AFKing his DZ, and I got destroyed because I just couldn't handle 2 Forging with the dumb Dawn of War. I was like, this is so dumb. I guess I can't play Blood Angels. Same thing, the Renegade Raiders. My Renegade Raiders list was so good into every army in the game that wasn't 6, specifically 5 to 6 Knights. So I guess I can't play these. I told you that the issue with Warhost. So I did play a lot of those games. I played with people like Nick Fromme and my friend Alex Pena, and some other people, some people local here, like Dustin Hoffman. He's like the night guy. He's won a couple of your tournaments.
Shout out to Dustin, man. I love that guy. You're in Florida, right?
I am in Florida. Mm-hmm. That's
right. So, dude, this is. I salivate. I get so happy. I am super biased. Everyone knows that, right? But obviously, it's friendly competition, right? Yeah. But when people from Florida, from the state that I'm in, right, are winning, I'm super happy. And I'm always telling people, right, Florida has the best players in the world. So good shit to you, man. Thank you for bringing it to Florida, man.
Of course.
Gotta love it. Gotta love it. So looking ahead, are you doubling down on Death Guard, or are you already scheming on your next big pivot?
Like I said, I don't really want to be playing Death Guard right now. I will probably continue playing them until either when Knights get nerfed, I probably just won't have to play them. Period.
Yep.
But Death Guard might get nerfed. The issue is, like I said, Hammer is not. Because GW sometimes nerfs for like the secret OP thing that like top tier competitive players are doing, but usually they nerf for like the mid tier, what people are vocalizing.
Correct.
And no one is vocalizing Plague Rush Crawlers in that type of sphere. So I don't think they're actually even going to get nerfed. They might, because I won the event.
Yeah.
Same thing happened
It's your fault.
with Custodes 2 years ago, where they deleted the 10-man squads. And I was one of the few people actually doing that.
Yep, they did.
Cut that out. Don't ever do that. So maybe. But I want to be playing those armies, as we said. Like, the second, if they nerf Plague Rush Crawlers, I'll probably just play Eldar anyways, because that's the only matchup. Besides, like, Eldar sucks into, like, hordes, but there's only one horde army in the game. It's one of the least popular armies in the game, even though it's good. The GSC post obsession thing. GSC. So probably that. Just that, or maybe if I maybe get Renegade Raiders again.
Renegade Raiders?
Warhost.
Okay.
Warhost. And then Discordant Lords in either Pact Bound or Renegade Raiders.
I love the Discordant Lords right now.
So good.
Me and Big Bear, you know Big Bear, you know John Geiger, right? Like, me and him, we were talking about it the other day. Shout out to him, Big Bear. Go check him out. He's in the description section. He's a great sponsor of mine as well. But he used to run right before Broviathan, when Brohammer was a thing, right? He used to, at the first ATCs, run multiple Disco Lords, and he was like one of the first proponents on why GW really nerfed the Disco Lords, because he was going to ATC and bringing like 3 of them and just tabling people immediately.
Yeah.
So
those Disco Lords were real good.
Yes, they were, dude. So shout out to him, man, and shout out to the Disco Lords. Hopefully you find whatever you're going to pivot to, man, and you continue to kill it and win it. So two more questions for you. So what's one piece of advice you'd give players chasing their first GT or major win?
Yeah. So how I got good at Warhammer actually was obsessively reading every single data sheet, every single army rule on like Wikipedia, just when I'm doing nothing. Because that's like the easiest way to lose games, is just losing to something you don't know.
Yep. So
you should ask your opponent how stuff is, but you should already know how it is, more or less. It's much easier in 10th edition because it's 6. Like, obviously, there's other attachments, but it's not. Every army in the last couple editions could have 20 strats, and that was a lot harder.
Yep.
Now you only could have 6, and there's not, like, most armies only have like 2 to 3 even usable attachments anyway, so it's a lot less information you need to know. It's obviously a lot less data sheets, and kind of got rid of half of them. So that's like the biggest thing to do. And deployment and planning out your first 2 movement phases is definitely probably the most important baseline aspect of 40K, because you can just lose it on the spot if you deploy incorrectly or move your first movement phase incorrectly.
Indeed. Yeah, no, I appreciate it very much. And actually, the last one is just a statement. So you're going to continue on to go on these tirades, winning, doing what you're doing, and everyone is very appreciative of what you're doing. So with that being said, what's your next big event? What's your next hunt, I guess? Is it WCW? Are you going to WCW? Can people potentially see you there?
Yeah, I'm going to the World Champs. Like I said, I have 2 tickets now. But my biggest next event will at least, actually, I don't know which, Crucible is before that, right?
Crucible is way before that. Crucible is September 19th to the 21st.
So that's my next biggest, like, bigger event. Like, I could potentially go to that major in 2 weeks, that GT in 2 weeks. I gotta go look at that, but that would be my next biggest event.
Nice. Thank you so much. Is there any shout outs, anybody you want to thank for everything you've done? Or
my biggest one, my boy Alex Pina. I taught him how to play Warhammer 9th edition. And he got to top 8 with me playing T-Suns. We play all the time. Like I said, he's my biggest, I don't know, information partner in Play Buddy. Or
partner in 40K, right? You do Garage? Is it Garage Hammer or is it TTS or what is it?
It's he lives in Washington. So I lived in Washington until last year.
Got it.
So
it's TTS.
TTS nowadays,
right.
but it used to be Garage Hammer and stuff.
All right, brother. Well, thank you so much for your time, man. Congratulations, and yeah, man. Peace out. Take care.
Stay loose.
You as well, brother.
Right.
Thank you so much to everyone that participated to the very end. Hopefully you enjoyed the show as we went into the mind of Steve Trimble, the champion of the US Open Tacoma, the Games Workshop event in Washington. Absolutely amazing and thrilled for what he did and bring into the state of Florida. Congratulations and kudos to him once again. For all of those that watched, hopefully you enjoyed and learned a couple new things. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe as always. And don't forget, Onslaught Gaming 40K, where victory is just a strategy away. Take care, everyone, and have a great night.